Good morning. Welcome to Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. I'm Shonda Knight. And Sheriff, it's hard to believe the holidays are officially upon us.
Absolutely. The weather's changed a little bit, got a little cooler. And when season changes, some things happen in our community. But most of the time, it's good stuff. I'll be honest with you. I'm looking forward to the Thanksgiving holiday, looking forward to Christmas, obviously coming after that. And then we start a whole new year. We've got a plan together for Leon County Sheriff's Office in terms of how we deal with some of these issues. But before we get there, the major thing we've got to deal with is trying to get through this holiday season without any fatalities.
Yes.
That's an absolutely must for us. And one of the ways we do that is working with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. They are an essential part of our delivery system in terms of how we keep our people safe in Leon County. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today about how we go about doing that during this holiday season.
Yeah, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, definitely putting that message out. We know that every year this season is the busiest season as it relates to impaired driving. And so we really need to get the messages out there. And Sheriff, there are so many options for people these days where you don't have to get behind the wheel under the influence.
Absolutely not. Shonda, every year I go out and I look again, I see another spot along a highway or roadway where a family has placed a marker that designates that spot as a place where someone lost their life. And MAD does such a great job of getting the information out to our community. Really, there is no reason why, with all the tools we have at our disposal now, with all these different kind of rides that you get to go to places, and how much we've talked about this with the safety things we've done with our cars and our vehicles, this is one of those things we can actually start to turn the tide in terms of deaths. But it takes everybody getting involved. And particularly it takes us getting in touch with our students. Unfortunately, students make up a large number of those fatalities we see or crashes we see. And that's a group of folks we've really got to reach out to. And that's what we're going to hopefully do today.
Yeah, what I really like about today's conversation is we're actually going to hear a teen perspective on the show. Our guest today is a local high school student. And like you said, this is definitely something that affects the high schools and even the colleges locally. So it's an important message, and parents need to be aware as well.
Oh, absolutely. I can't say enough about our parents. I'll tell you, for the most part, the parents are involved in making sure their children are informed about what's taking place in our communities, but it just takes that one situation. And that's the one we're trying to find and trying to get the message across to that one parent or that one child. Don't go out during this season. Don't ever go out there and drink and drive, but certainly let's try to start right now. If you've been doing it in the past, let's stop it. Let's bring it into that hideous kind of thing that happens in our community that takes lives away from us.
Yeah, we definitely want to have a great holiday season. So be sure to stick around for today's show. We're going to have an important message from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. But first, let's check in with Sergeant McMillan for our Crime Tip Tuesday.
Hello, everyone. This is Sergeant Shade McMillan with the Leon County Sheriff's Office, and here's today's Crime Tip Tuesday. Windows are one of the main ways a burglar might access a home. Windows are easy entry points because they are often left open or unlocked. Here are some safety reminders when it comes to windows on your home. Close and secure all windows at night and when you are not home. Screens and storm windows can offer added protection. Make sure all locks on your windows work properly. If not, replace them. Use a secondary blocking device. Insert a pin or nail above a window or on a track to limit the window from being lifted. Adhere decals or stickers announcing an alarm system or a neighborhood watch program on main windows. Stay safe out there.
Joining me now is Sydney Wright, a student at Childs High School, an intern with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or MAD. Sydney, from your perspective, how prevalent does alcohol and drugs play a role with your peers?
I think alcohol and drugs plays a big role, more drugs than alcohol.
Okay.
I know like a lot our teachers talk like don't drink, like don't do that, but I feel like my peers are not really drinking, they're more like smoking, and like that is where a lot of stuff comes in, and that's where like everyone gets in trouble with is smoking.
What about drinking and driving? Are there a number of kids at Childs or other high schools for that matter engaged in drinking and driving?
I do know people do drink and drive, and last year like someone did get into a car accident with drinking and driving at our school, so I know it is a thing. But I think the most common one is driving and being high, because people think that like it's not the same, and like they can still think so they can drive.
Okay. So instead of alcohol being the prevalent problem, it's other substances that that the kids are using and driving. Are kids taking, or I shouldn't say kids, are young high school students taking advantage of those Uber or other transportations out there instead of driving?
I don't think so, only because like obviously your parents are going to see like your transactions and like what you're spending your money on. So I don't think that or I think like kids are kind of scared for their parents to find out, and I also think that they're like under the impression that they're okay to drive, so they'll just do it themselves.
So what do you think would be some of the things that we should do to assist high school students who are driving to get them not to drink while impaired?
I think one of the biggest things is explanation, because I know like a lot of people, they just kind of say like, don't do this because like and then you like, people ask why and you're like, 'cause I'm the adult. And I think explanation could be a good way of like promoting not like drinking and driving or like smoking and driving.
Okay.
I think if adults and like teachers and parents did a better job with like explaining these things to like their kids, like why this is bad and like what can happen, instead of just saying don't do it, and also talking about like the consequences of like doing these things, and not just like it's illegal, but like you could put your own life at risk, let alone like someone else's.
Right, right. That's a good perspective, and it means that we as the adults have a greater responsibility than perhaps we've realized in terms of trying to make sure we get the word out and explain things in detail to our young people here in our community. What about the Uber rides? I talked about that a moment ago, and you indicated that they don't really trust those. Is there a conversation that parents should have about transportation and those kind of things that you think that might change that perspective the kids have about using other transportation modes?
I think most parents say like, just call me, like I won't be upset, I'll come get you. But like, I'm sure every kid, like when they're in that position, they are more worried about like what their parents are gonna say about it. And so I think like, even if, like I feel like parents could have a better reaction towards these things and not necessarily be like be more focused on the fact that they made a good decision by getting an Uber instead of driving, and that they made it home safely.
Okay, that's a great advice. Your work with MAD, how long have you done that, and what's your job with MAD?
I've worked with MAD since March 2021, and I'm the intern there. I have an internship.
Okay. And that has fashioned your perspective on some of these issues, I take it.
Yeah, I go out to events and I like pass out bags, and I help promote not drinking and driving, and I also promote it on social media too, to like reach the teen audience, because I feel like hearing it from a teen is a lot different than hearing it from like an adult or someone like older than you. It's more, I feel like it's more relatable to hear from someone that's your age and that can understand like all of the things that like you're doing, and they have a better connection with it than like an adult would.
Obviously, your work with MAD has paid off. You're doing a great job. Thank you for coming on our show. Thanks, Sydney. Up next, MAD tells us about their holiday campaign and if COVID has had an impact on impaired driving. Stay tuned. We're back with Claudia Machado from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Claudia, this year marks 35 years of the Taiwan On for Safety campaign. How's the campaign going across the country?
Well, first, thank you so much for inviting us. We are a great community partner, and I am very honored to be here. And so Taiwan On for Safety, it has been 35 years. It's the longest campaign that MAD has had, and it's across the whole United States, whether you're in Florida or Alaska, and we're just encouraging people to tie a red ribbon. Back in the day in an antenna, we all know that there's no antennas anymore,
Right.
But tie a red ribbon somewhere in the car, saying that they're going to be responsible and they're going to have fun in the holidays, but being safe.
Well, Claudia, thank you and MAD for all you've done for those 35 years to try to keep us safe across America. Talk about what kind of difference in numbers have you seen with respect to the 35 years of trying to deal with impaired drivers?
So since MAD started, we have saved over 350,000 lives.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
but we won't stop. We want to have a United States of no more victims, of 0 victims of drunk driving and impaired driving. It includes drugs, and we want to have 0 victims.
Wow. I tell you, we've in law enforcement, we've partnered with you probably for those 35 years, and we're excited about all the work you do, particularly trying to keep our community safe. Talk about the designated driver application. How is that working? Does designated drivers actually decrease the number of fatalities out there?
They do. Actually, it's an interesting thing that we found out in the summer. So NHTSA, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Institute, they came out with a new statistic that during the pandemic, we all figured we were home, crashes will go down. And no, drunk driving crashes went up 9% from 2020 and 7% all traffic fatalities. In 2021, just in the first quarter, there were almost 9,000 deaths due to traffic fatalities. So we're seeing an increase in impaired driving and death and crashes. So designated driving campaign is very important because we're putting the responsibility on the person that if you're going out, designate a non-drinking driver. If you have, whether it's your husband or your family member that does not drink, then they can be the designated driver. So it's an easy thing that you, before going out, you know who's your ride home, you know the person is sober, and we're all, everybody's safe and happy.
Well, again, thank you for all you all do in terms of trying to keep not only this community safe, but across America. But talk a little about, we were talking previously about our youth in our communities. What kind of efforts should we, what's your advice to the kids of our community about drinking and driving or being impaired in driving?
Well, we all know that you have to be 21 in order to drink. We're seeing a trend that in high school and in college students, they understand that drinking and driving is a big no. But we're seeing an increase that they think it's okay to get high or impaired under drugs, whether it's marijuana or prescription pills, and they think it's okay to drive. So there's a lot of resources out there that shows you the science behind why impaired driving, if you feel different, you are going to drive different. We have the science that shows that no matter if you're under alcohol or drugs, it's going to impair you. So I tell teens and college students to research rather than making an opinion based on them. Right.
Well, we are approaching the holiday season, where some might say we're right in the midst of it. What kind of advice would you give, not to just only students, but to any person out there operating the vehicles?
If you're going to have a party, make sure you have a designated driver. If you don't know anybody that's not going to drink in the party, make sure that you take an Uber, Lyft, or a taxi. If you're hosting a party, you're going to party plan and make the party fun, but make sure that you're also responsible how those guests are going to get home safely. Whether you're going to offer your couch, whether you're going to offer mocktails, just make sure that everybody's safe.
Mocktails, I like that. That's a good one. What kind of advice would you give people like myself in law enforcement? What should we be doing differently, or what campaign should we expand?
Well, I think that you guys already do a great job talking to the community and talking to people and being approachable. Obviously, partnering with us is a great thing. And talking to the teens, sometimes people are scared to approach you or approach anybody that has law enforcement, and connecting with the people and being able to understand that they can call you.
Well, Claudia, again, thank you. And we really appreciate the great work that you and Matt do all across America. We know that we're going to partner with you during this holiday season that's coming up, all in an effort to drive down the number of fatalities we see across our community. Again, we can't appreciate you enough, Claudia. Thank you so much for being on our show and for doing all that you do. Coming up in our Deputy on Duty, Crimes Against Children, an LCSO detective talks about working the cases from start to finish. Stay tuned.
I'm Detective Blake Howard, currently assigned to the Special Victims Unit within the Criminal Investigations Division. We get assigned cases where a child is a victim, whether it be custodial parents, or sometimes suspects, or whoever's in charge of that child. Oftentimes, can lead into a neglect type case or an all-out child abuse case. So we are the unit assigned to investigate that. Generally, most of our cases start with some sort of disclosure. You know, a lot of the incidents that we investigate happen in very private places, whether it be children in the home or, you know, if it's sexual in nature, a lot of those just tend to happen in private places. So ultimately, our process starts generally when there's a first disclosure. Sometimes that's brought to us through counselors. Sometimes it's brought to us through families. Sometimes it's brought to us through the victims themselves. So that's kind of where that process starts for us. And then depending on the case and the circumstances is kind of where we go from there. There's really no one tailored, you know, criteria of the things we do. It's very case specific. But generally we have a lot of resources available to us to investigate and get to the bottom of what happened. So we are kind of the boots on the ground, if you will, as far as, you know, getting all of it kind of put together for the legal process. You know, like I said, every case is a little different, but generally we're just trying to find as much information about each case that's available. So, you know, we're tasked with putting all of that together and trying to, you know, identify any crimes that were committed and presenting that to the proper authorities. When it is these types of cases, we rely, like I said, on a lot of different agencies as well. The Department of Children and Families has an investigative unit within their agency that is also investigating usually. So we, you know, try to get information from wherever we can, whether it be through them and their past experiences with any of these families that we're dealing with, whether it be with schools and counselors, anybody that may know, you know, what's going on behind closed doors and things of that nature. We also, you know, work closely with the state attorney's office, because kind of if our case is leading to an arrest, that's the next step in the legal process is, you know, formal charges and then that courtroom side of things. So usually the state attorney's office, someone from their office is brought in to kind of consult with and, you know, review the case with us. So when we're investigating, you know, these are very serious crimes generally that we're investigating. There kind of is no, nothing that we're not going to try or go out and resource to get for these victims. Our job is tough in the sense that we are dealing with, you know, sometimes children victims, that is, you know, generally very innocent victims that we see. It's hard for any parent to imagine, you know, a child being a victim, but too many times they are. So anytime I get one that is dealing with a child, you know, especially a younger child, that always hits home a little bit more and, you know, just makes you work that much harder. But the rewarding part of that is that we get to kind of see the justice through the process. So even though it's tough to sometimes hear these stories and understand what's going on, we also get to, you know, we're the ones tasked with being their voice and, you know, telling their story so that whoever is responsible for this trauma is held accountable. And that part of it, seeing that process happen and when it's successfully done is very rewarding. And, you know, there are aspects of it that are heartbreaking. But like I said, for us, it's always you know, rewarding to see it kind of come to fruition and kind of go through the process, like I said, seeing the justice behind it. When we are dealing with special victims, whether it be children or, you know, victims of sexual assault, we do take those cases very seriously and we try to bring as much professionalism to that situation as possible. It can be oftentimes the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to anybody. So we try to, you know, handle them delicately, handle them with care, and treat our victims as victims because, you know, it is a traumatic experience that most of them have been through, and we take it very seriously.
Welcome back to Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. Sheriff, we talk about our detectives who investigate crimes against children, and that can really be a tough job to have to go through all of those investigative elements.
Shonda, that's the job I've never pursued in my career. I recall some of our police officers going to places and finding kids in very, very bad condition, and the horrific things that happen that are done to our children by these people who have some real bad mental issues It takes a special person, I'll
It
put it that
does.
way, to do that job. And our detectives do a tremendously great job. And I have to tell, hats off to them. They do a tremendous job. And they bring most of these folks to justice,
They
too.
do
And that's the most
indeed.
important thing is we get those folks out of our communities and off our streets.
Absolutely. But then Mothers Against Drunk Driving, you know, we are in this holiday season and it never fails. You know, we see something in the news, may not even be right here in Leon County, but somewhere in the area where there's been fatalities related to impaired driving.
35 years, MAD, engaged in our communities and communities across this country. That's dedication to try to save lives. And I am just impressed with the number of lives they've saved. I mean, the interventions they've had. And I'm happy about the fact that we have, in law enforcement, we saw the need to partner with them early on. And for that entire 35 years, we've been right there with them trying to save lives here in Leon County. So hats off to them. And hopefully during this holiday season, we have no fatalities.
Let's hope so. And we see those DUI checkpoints, we won't get so frustrated. We understand the
Maybe
importance.
not, maybe not.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff. I want to thank you all for tuning in for another episode. We'll see you back here next week.